And for our World War II unit is Militarism Revisited. You may recall that militarism was one of the four reasons for World War I. Four main reasons: militarism, alliances, imperialism, and nationalism. But militarism doesn't really go away. It actually persists through and after World War I. After World War I, Italy, like all the nations who had been involved, had a huge problem with unemployment after the war. And as a response to this economic problems, the Communist Party gains power in Italy, and they encourage their workers to take control of factories and peasants take land to try to gain power in Italy. A response to this communism, and remember the Russian Revolution in 1918, 1917, 1918, where they have communism installed in Russia. So this is just a couple of years after that. This was a real fear for people. And response to this was the rise of Benito Mussolini, who formed the Fascist Party in 1921. Mussolini pictured in the middle of the pictures. In the picture here, his arms akimbo, standing in the middle there. He forms a fascist party to take control of the government and take care of and get rid of the communists. Fascists believe that a military-dominated government should control all aspects of society. Mussolini led an army of his followers that he called the Black Shirts, pictured here, where it was this kind of this paramilitary group where they would use violence to control the country. Supported by nationalists who wanted a strong nation and of business owners who feared the communists. After all, rich people have the most to lose if there's a communist takeover. They help Mussolini come to power. The Italian king appoints Mussolini as prime minister and granted him dictatorial powers because they were afraid of communism taking over of Italy. Immediately, Mussolini limits freedom of speech. He has political opponents arrested and he restricts voting rights, all under the guise of needing to control the country because of the fear of communism, to protect the Italians from communist takeover. But he felt very justified in restricting rights and imprisoning people and killing people because he was afraid of communism, or that was what he had said. Building up his military in the 1920s, he needs to do something to this military, so he invades Ethiopia in 1935 and Albania in 1939. Italy is the light green country pictured here in the lower portion of the map, what looks like a boot, and Albania is just to the right of that, to the east of Italy. So what is fascism? It's an authoritarian and nationalistic, right-wing, military-dominated system of government and social organization. Authoritarian, they have one person in charge or one group in charge, and it's the opposite of democracy. It's one person in charge, one group. And top-down leadership, nationalistic, where it's everything for the good of the country. Right-wing, ultra-conservative, military-dominated system of government and social organization. And Hitler tries to take over, with the Nazi Party, tries to take over Germany in 1923, tries to lead a revolution. Well, it fails, and so he is arrested and put on trial for treason. But he turns his trial in a way for him to get more popularity and to draw attention to what he was trying to do. He is found guilty of treason and sentenced to 5 years in prison, of which he only serves 9 months. And while in prison, he dictates his book, Mein Kampf, or My Struggle. In Mein Kampf, Hitler had as his main thesis what he called the Jewish peril, a Jewish conspiracy, he alleged, that was going to try to gain control of world leadership. This is his effort to create an enemy, a straw enemy, if you will, something that he can knock down, and it rallies people around him when he creates an enemy for someone to hate. Hitler and the Nazi Party in 1932 get nearly 40% of the vote in a national election. Not a majority, but because there's multiple political parties, his political party has the largest number of votes. And so Hitler becomes Chancellor of Germany. And he names his government the Third Reich, or the Third Empire, which was supposed to last 1,000 years. And he claimed dictatorial powers. And he prohibits Jews and non-Nazis from holding government positions. He outlaws strikes. He makes military service mandatory. This is Hitler Youth pictured here, where from the time the boys are young age, they're trained for military service. And his brown shirts, the German version of the black shirts of Italy, his stormtroopers crushed with violence any political opposition. And the buildup of military in violation of the Treaty of Versailles. He wants living space, so he's going to take over big countries. He's going to take over big portions of Europe, because he says that Germany needs that. They move into the Rhineland, a demilitarized area between Germany and France, and they take over Austria in 1938. And in 1938, he gets England to go along with giving part of Czechoslovakia to him. It's the part of, you'll see Czechoslovakia in the middle of the map, that portion between Germany and Czechoslovakia, which was part of Czechoslovakia, he agrees to Germany to take part of that, even though there's no representative of Czechoslovakia in this meeting that England was part of. His hatred of Jews becomes official government policy, culminating in Kristallnacht, Night of Broken Glass, when Nazi thugs burned down synagogues and destroyed Jewish businesses. At the same time this is going on, there's militarism in Japan, where leaders of Japan's military forces gain increasing power. They wanted to lessen Japan's reliance on foreign imports. Japan is a series of islands, and they don't have a lot of natural resources. They wanted to increase Japanese expansion throughout East Asia and the Pacific. They wanted to reduce the influence of Great Britain and the United States in Asia. Remember, in our imperialism unit, the United States wanted to control the Pacific. We had been on a collision course with Japan for decades. They wanted to create a Japanese empire for direct control over territories that produce iron, petroleum, rubber, and timber, all vital necessities for a 20th century industrial economy. And they're going to use the military to get that done. The revisitation of militarism.